thank you so much for coming on today, Stephanie.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I was curious because Thanksgiving is such an overlooked holiday. What
Mhm.
made you decide to write a Thanksgiving story?
Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday because it revolves around food. So, I mean, it really it's always been so fun growing up, like being around both of my grandmas, my mom, and us all coming together make very different meals and all the family drama that happens when everybody comes together. And then my niece was born on Thanksgiving 3 years ago, so now Thanksgiving is not only a celebration of food and family, but also a little toddler. So it's just always fun, and it is a very overlooked holiday, and I wish people would kind of see more stories in it. And so I felt like it was an opportunity to kind of stand out a little bit more if people happen to look for Thanksgiving movies. Like Christmas movies, there's so many, and I did a Christmas movie, so it's like, well, Thanksgiving, there's not a whole lot. So if someone's searching for a Thanksgiving movie, we're probably going to be in that shuffle, and that's going to hopefully make the film a little more successful.
Were you worried at all when you were making this that because there's not a lot of Thanksgiving films that people wouldn't care? Like, were
Yeah,
you ever worried about that?
yeah, I mean there's always a worry about that just in general with low budget filmmaking, mostly because if you don't see somebody that you recognize, a lot of times you're not going to watch it. But I'm hoping that the poster that we have, which is very cartoonish, and seeing some of the performances in our teaser kind of bring people in, and then they stay and kind of be like, oh shoot, that's the way my family is, or that's the way that my grandma cooks, or that's how the turkey looks for us, or oh great, a vegan's here, and just kind of have fun with it. So I'm really interested in how people receive it, and kind of kind of see if it's something to explore in the future for maybe another type of story.
Right on. Do you have a favorite Thanksgiving memory growing up?
I love the cranberry sauce in a can, and my favorite memory is that I love it so much that my grandma, my Mima, actually gives me a can of cranberry sauce, my own, and everybody else gets another one. So that's always been fond, where I'm just like, cool, this one's mine, thanks.
I watching this, I felt like it was a lot more personal than the Christmas ride was. So, what was it like making this Thanksgiving film?
This was definitely a personal type story, mostly because when you work with an ensemble and you work with a family dynamic, you kind of put yourself in a lot of the story, and all the actors are even saying that too. They're like, "Who is my character?" I'm like, "Oh, well, your character is based on my cousin who da 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 da." Yeah. The Christmas ride, I gave free range of the writing really to the actors because it was all improv. So with Home for Thanksgiving, I wrote a script and worked with the actors on kind of working on character, and then they went towards script. So it was a little different. Two very different vibes, but also still has the same type of tone that I like to do when storytelling.
Did I'm curious, did the actors ever meet the said person that the character is based off of in your
No, because
family?
all my family all lives in Missouri, and so
Okay.
but I did have pictures of them. Like my actual grandma and grandpas are all over the set. In some of the pictures is kind of hidden in there, and the picture of the army guy of the grandpa, that's actually my dad's photo from when he
Okay.
graduated West Point. So I throw in my
Cool.
family in there, and every now and then, and stuff, and I kind of describe a lot of things too, like this is how my grandma is. We are a very German Missouri type family, and so this is kind of how we do it. And then the actors also bring their own personal experiences and their fantastic ideas to the character, and it really worked out well. And this was a challenge mostly because it was an ensemble, but everybody, this was such a professional cast, and everybody was so great, and it really meshed together well.
That's awesome. Um, I read that you had served in the army for a little while.
Mhm.
And I noticed that in the movie you had touched a little bit on the military. So, what was that like? And thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you. I was in the army after high school and served in the reserves for a couple years. And I grew up in a military family, and we had the amazing opportunity to film at the Veterans Memorial Park in Tampa, thanks to Film Tampa Bay. And it was really exciting because it added another layer to the grandfather and to the family being of a military family. It kind of molds a little bit of the family dynamic too. Knowing that you come together in times of turmoil. In the story, the grandfather had fought in Vietnam and Desert Storm, and so during Desert Storm, everybody would have remembered about that time. Like I remember when my dad served in Desert Storm, I was 4. My mom had my 2 younger sisters, and it was really weird that dad was somewhere else and we were videotaping ourselves, sending him videotapes and stuff, and it just kind of adds another layer to the characters as a whole. And we were very fortunate that on 9/11 we filmed at that park, and it was just such a beautiful but kind of heavy experience for all of us. And Sally said that it really kind of helped her too with walking around and just kind of feeling each of the beautiful memorials that were donated, to kind of get her into character even more.
That's awesome. Oh,
Mm.
how did you go about casting? I felt like you did a good job getting the perfect people casted and making it feel like a real family. And what was that like?
Well, thank you. Sally, I worked with a couple years ago during the pandemic on a short film. Uh, she's a friend of a friend, and she's phenomenal. And so when I was thinking about this story, I'm like, man, the matriarch Sally would be so great for it because she's a theater actor, commercial actor, and she does Lifetime movies and stuff. And when I approached her about it, she's like, absolutely, I need to do something like this. This is so fun. Chelsea Wolf is part of Bouncy Boxer Media, and I've worked with for a long time. She's my best friend, and so I molded her character towards her own experiences as well. Most of the other cast members, besides Rebecca and Matt, who played the other sister and the ex-husband, we hadn't worked with before, and we found them through Actors Access. Matt and Rebecca were both in the Christmas ride, and so with Matt, I knew he'd be a really great villain in the movie, and he was all down for it. And he even told me at the end, he goes, "This is my first feature, right?" I'm like, "What? No way, no, it's not," because he just did one scene in the Christmas ride. He's like, "Yeah, this is the first time I'm in a feature that I'm like actually a big part of the cast," and he killed it. He did such a great job.
Yeah, I'm curious. Was Rich based off of anyone in your family that you didn't like?
Not necessarily my family, but is based off of one of my friend's ex-husbands. He was an alcoholic and had problems with, I mean, I guess he's kind of a combination of a lot of exes of my friends, with the cheating and the alcoholism and the
The
kind of
manipulation.
narcissist, yeah, the manipulation and the narcissist behavior. Who just he tries to redeem himself, but he just never quite gets it right. It always happens.
The whole entire movie was phenomenal to watch, and there's not as many movies made nowadays with passion pour into it. So I really appreciate that you made this movie.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that compliment.
The food fighting scene seemed like it was one of the funnest one to film.
Yeah, yeah, that takes a lot of planning, and the main part of the food fight was that I'm the only one behind the camera, by the way. Like I'm doing camera, sound, all of it. The
And you,
lighting, all of it. And so we got to that point to where we were all discussing. I'm like, no one's throwing food until we talk about it. And so we're discussing how this is going, and Rich starts with the green bean casserole, and then I'm like, okay, stop. And then everybody stops. And I'm like, all right, what are we doing next? I flip over to Chelsea. I'm like, what are you going to do next? She's like, I'm going to throw potatoes. I'm like, okay, do it. And then she did it. And it's like, stop. Okay, what are you going to do? And like, we just kept going over to each person, like, what are you doing now? What are you doing now? What are you doing now? To kind of help me piece it together, because there's only so many times that we can clean something up or reset it when we're working with a very minimal crew. And it worked out really well, especially for the edit.
Did you guys have to like use prop food before you started filming so you knew how you're gonna do it, or how did that go about?
Nope, that was all real food. I made like 6 batches of green bean casserole. Um, I had a food stylist with us that day, and she was solely responsible for like making extras of like extra rolls and extra potatoes and the pie. We cooked two full turkeys. I cooked them the night before we shot them, so two 25-pound turkeys that, and that's the first time I've ever cooked them. And I kept telling everybody, I'm like, don't eat the turkey. I did not properly cool it down. I'm not, they're not in here. It's just for show. It's just to look pretty. Don't eat the turkey. And of course, everybody's like, can I eat this? Like, yes, you can eat the corn. You can eat the potatoes. Don't eat that. Don't eat that, but you can eat that.
That's
it was
hilarious.
it was interesting working with prop food versus food you can eat all at the same time. It was a lot to learn.
How many takes did it take
For the food
for the?
fight,
Yeah.
one per shot. That's it.
Wow.
That's it. And
Yeah.
so, and just kind of had everybody kind of do something, and we basically went in order of the food fight. And so I already knew how I wanted to edit it. So once Rich did the first move, I knew who they started interacting, and then it's like, okay, now I need to move to what is Martha doing? What is Ginger gonna do? And Ginger's like, I'm gonna throw something at him. I'm like, okay, here we go. And then she would do it. And then Chad, Joshua, who plays Chad, he's like, I feel like I need to get Ginger out of the way. I'm like, all right, go ahead. Like, basically, it was everyone telling me, this is what I'm going to do next. This is what I'm going to do next. And in my head, as an editor, I'm going through, okay, how's that going to cut? How's that going to cut? Perfect. And then with Krishna, who plays Vera, I'm like, I just want you to spike the camera and just be like, what are these crazy people doing? And I really think that worked out well. I think that's going to get some good laughs when we do live screenings.
Um, so which one do you prefer? Do you prefer to improv, or do you prefer to write it yourself, since you kind of do a mix of both? Like, do you have
Yeah,
a
I
preference?
definitely do a big mix of both. It depends on the actor. I tend to work with a lot of theater actors and improv actors, and so a lot of times I have the writing and I mostly stick with dialogue and actions, but then the actor will come in and they'll have this amazing kind of idea and take on the story and what they're acting like, and I'm like, well, let's run with that. Let's do that. Throw the freaking thing out the window. Like, I always told the actors, the script is a guideline. If there's something that's not feeling right, or if you want to play around with something, let's do it. Let's do it. We've got the opportunity. And if it's not going to work in the edit, I'll tell you, and we'll adjust from there. Because I'm just constantly thinking of the edit as we're rolling.
So that's another thing I'm curious about is you're doing so many different departments shooting this film. How do you remember? Like, because sometimes I forget something that happened yesterday. How do you
Right.
remember and stay focused?
Well, I started out as an AD and a script supervisor, and so continuity is just always on my mind anytime that I'm on set. And when I'm planning, it takes months of planning before we even step on set. Um, I do meetings with the actors. We talk about a lot of things. I'll write notes down about little things that they're wanting to do with their character. We discuss on the day, but it's just mostly um, having actors who are good at their own continuity as well, but also kind of work with you as you're going through the edit. So if I know in the scene that I want a wide and it's only going to play at the very beginning, then I'm going to do the wide, and we're going to go ahead and get our closes or whatever else is needed and let the actors play with it, as long as whatever we ended in the wide is going to go next. They got free reign to kind of do whatever they want. And so it's just kind of, I've been practicing it quite a bit for the past almost 10 years now. and so with continuity, and so it just kind of becomes second nature after a while to just kind of really laser in on it, but also trusting that your actors are going to help you out with that.
Okay. Um, the opening credits for the film I really like for how unique and different it is, and it stands out. And
Hmm.
did it take a long time to get it set up like that?
No.
No?
I started doing the practical opening credits about 5 years ago for a short film. We did an action wedding film, and I was like, wouldn't it be kind of fun if, like, on little chalkboards and on the little gift tags, we had the credits? And my DP was like, that's amazing, and we did it. And in front of the live screening, people were just like, oh, ooh, and I'm like, well, that's what I'm gonna do for now on. So that's always been kind of a signature of doing the practical credits. Um, I always plan those out to start with as well. So they're already like pre-made, and refrigerator magnets are pretty easy to do. And Lexi made the big card that's opened up. And it just kind of play around with it. But I mostly make all of that stuff beforehand. So it's already set, and I already have an idea of like how I want to shoot it before we even get there on the day.
Okay. Do you ever have to specially order the coffee cups or the plates, or how do you go about those?
Well, those were dollar store
Okay.
coffee mugs and plates, and so I took a Sharpie on those and just kind of hand wrote them because the film is very like homemade and vintage and stuff. So I'm like, well, if I handwrite it, you'll still feel it, and I don't necessarily have to go out and like create a cup and make it. And then I Sally kept her cup that had her name on it. Um, and then the Alabama mug that got smashed, I just got an Alabama sticker and put it on there because you only see it for a second. So a lot of the stuff that you see on screen, it takes months to plan it. And I would go to like antique stores and dollar stores and thrift stores to buy them. And some of the things like the silverware I bought from eBay, and then I resold it for more than I bought it for. And so that helps the budget too. It
Yeah.
just kind of depends on what you find and how to kind of make the most of it.
What was the hardest thing to find? Because you had a lot of props you had to make sure you had. Was there
Yeah,
something that was hard to find?
turkeys in July and August and September. It is very hard to find Thanksgiving turkeys. They don't come out until like November or like the very end of October. But there's a butcher out in Plant City that is called Rick's Custom Meats, and they have like everything you could imagine. And I reached out to him and I'm like, hey, do you happen to have some turkeys? This is what I'm doing. He goes, yeah, I've got two turkeys. You want them? I'm like, oh yeah, for sure. How much are they? He's like, no, do you want them? I'm like, yeah. So he
That's
donated two
awesome.
turkeys just because he was just like, that's really cool what you're doing. Like that, the we have two in the freezer. Here you go. Like he knows he's not going to sell those until November, so it worked out for all of us, and we were very appreciative to him. And the next time I go there, I definitely need to get some meat. Like they've got good duck breast and stuff. It's really delicious.
What was your favorite scene to shoot?
Ooh, probably the food fight because that was really fun, and it was just fun to be just a lens and let everybody else go with it. And then once the plate crashed and I stayed on Sally when she had her moment, I'm behind the camera just crying like as she's going through it. And that to me was just so much fun and also very satisfying as a creator to see your actors really take something to a whole other level and deliver just phenomenal performances.
I was always curious, like, as an actor, how do you channel your emotions? Like, for a sad scene, if you're not sad that day,
Hmm.
um, how does that work?
Well, it's different for everybody. For me, I have specific memories in my head that I can kind of pick point in when, like, and I always tell, like, if I'm in front of the camera and I have an emotional scene, then I'll ask the director, hey, can you give me 5 minutes heads up when you guys are ready to roll? Because I need to dig into my toolbox and take out this really painful memory that's going to make me cry. And for some people, it comes really easily. For others, they need to put icy hot on their tear ducts. That'll make you cry. That menthol gets right in there and it'll go in. Sally, I know she built off of personal experiences and she really dug into the character and really connected with the character. Chelsea and Rebecca both have some memories and like voicemails or songs that they listened to before we filmed in the bathroom. So it just kind of depends. It's different for everybody, but once you find what works for you, then it really translates well on screen.
It's awesome. What was your favorite part of the whole process?
I love pre-production. I love planning things. We have like when you haven't even shot the movie yet, you just get so excited about it. And as you're talking with your team, your cast, and everybody, it just kind of validates more that you're like, this is a story I'm really excited to tell, and this is why, and this is what we're gonna do to kind of bring it to the next level, and all the little pieces coming together. And I love the pre-pro process, like the planning process of it all. I'm a super nerd.
Well, it's really awesome that you were willing to take a chance and do something that not a lot of people do, and it was
Mm.
really good.
Thank you. It was very difficult. This was the first like I've done like a lot of things by myself behind the scenes, but to take on an ensemble was very challenging. But I'm glad I did it because I learned a lot. And the next time that I try to do an ensemble like that, I definitely know some things that I want to do in the future, or there are certain things I may not want to play around with, or even take it to another level.
And I thought the A Christmas Ride was a really good movie, but I thought this film was even better than that one. And I was kind of curious, what lessons were you able to take from the Christmas film to this one?
Both of them dealt a lot with several characters, which helped me to learn I already knew every actor is different, but what I loved about both of the processes is that the way actors prepare and kind of put everything out on the table is very different. I very much learned a lot more technical skills with the camera, with sound, lighting, especially. Lighting is very difficult, and I'm still learning. There are some scenes where I look at it, I'm like, I nailed it, and then there's some scenes where I'm like, ah. So it just kind of depends. But the more I'm learning, the more I can definitely feel that I'm improving on my visuals and on the technicals. Um, and what I loved about both experiences is that I got to take a chance and use something very low budget. So I wasn't having to worry about like, you know, to like letting all these people down if I don't do this perfect. But it's like, no, I'm the one that's invested in this. We did crowdfunding with it too. Everybody's like here, ready to do it. And they both worked out really well because there were so many very talented and passionate people in front of the camera.
So this film was crowdfunded.
Part of it was we did a crowdfunding campaign in June and July for the actors budget. And so that covered that part. And then the rest of it was self funded. So I worked a lot of, I have a day job. And so I worked some extra jobs and extra gigs in order to make the budget. But it worked out, thankfully.
Well, I'm glad it worked out. So the crowdfunding, I know a little bit about it, but how did it work for this? Like, did people pay to get their names at the end credits, or how did that work?
That was one of the tiers. So we use Seed and Spark, which we've used before for Hot Mess in a Wedding Dress. And basically, there's different tiers that you can contribute. Like $5 was a social media shout or a thank you note. I was writing a personal thank you note. $10 was a social media shout out. 25 got you a digital copy of the movie. 50 gets an IMDb credit. 100 was helping us pick like foods that were involved. and then 500 was associate producer. And so, or you could just donate whatever you, or you just want to contribute in general, you could do that as well. And crowdfunding is always extremely difficult because you're literally begging people to give you money. And
Right.
since this was our third feature film, it's not like I could say, well, we're just doing this on a whim. It's like, no, we've done two features. This is our third one. We know what we're doing. We want to bring you a different kind of story. Here's who we're working with. Here's what we're doing. And thankfully, it worked out really well. And that definitely helped out with the production costs by already having the actor budget raised.
To do the crowdfunding, you had to like get a whole film pitch and all that all set up, right?
Yeah. hmm Yeah, we
That
did a video.
I imagine a film pitch is really difficult to write, right? Or not really.
It depends because it's mostly just a video of you saying, "Hey, we're doing this crowdfunding to raise money for a third feature," and then showing clips of other things that we've done to kind of show what the tone is gonna be like. And so once we did that, it was at least a starting point. But I was doing like Facebook Live and Instagram Live once a week, posting twice a day. We were hitting up everybody. It's like, hey, I know we haven't talked for a while. This is what we're doing. If you want to contribute, great. There's people that I from high school that I haven't seen in forever. They're like, we keep watching that you're doing all this stuff, and here's $10. We're super excited to help you. And it kind of goes to show that you can keep just showing up every day and keep showing people that you're here to create something, and people take notice. You may not hear them say that they take notice, but they do.
But that's something good to remember. Well, was there anything specific about the film you wanted to talk about?
Um, it was a real joy to make, and we were very thankful to have a lot of support of our friends, family, fellow filmmakers, and a lot of filmmakers who are on these higher levels. They reached out and they're like, "Hey, let us know if you need anything, or we're rooting for you," and that meant a lot. It
Yeah,
really did.
sure. That's awesome.
Gotta love our little community down here.
Yeah. So, where'd you film at in Florida?
The house is an Airbnb in Tampa,
Okay.
like near the fairgrounds area, and then we had Veterans Memorial Park. And then we filmed also at Swan Brewing in Lakeland for the bar scene.
Okay. Bet all the actors were so excited to get to be part of it because it just you could feel the chemistry through the movie.
Yeah, everybody really connected to their characters and really brought something extra to it. And I was just so excited to kind of to work with everybody, but then everybody really meshed well. All the personalities really linked, and it was really cool because these are actors from Orlando, from Miami, and Tampa. We had Vera, who Krishna Ward, who played Vera. She came from Huntsville, Alabama, just to be in this film. And she's been to Tampa, but she's like, I wanted to kind of explore more of Tampa sites, and what better way to do it than to work. I was like, absolutely.
That's awesome. When will the movie be available to the public?
Should be available soon. It has been submitted to Amazon Prime, so just waiting for the finishing touches on it. But it'll be available soon. We are doing a screening November 30th at Tampa Theater, and then we will be part of the Tampa Bay Underground Film Festival the first weekend in December, and that'll be at Newport Richey. So we'll have a couple live screenings, and then if you follow Bouncy Boxer Media on all socials, then we'll also keep you up to date on where everything's going to be.
Okay, awesome. I'll make sure I do that. Are you ever wanting to try to do DVD copies or just digital for the movie?
DVDs don't tend to do very well unless it's like horror or sci-fi, and so it once we get into that genre, we'll probably go into DVDs. But for now, we're gonna stay digital. If there's enough demand for it and enough people want it, I do know some companies that do manufacture DVDs because we self-distribute. So I
Okay.
have the power to do whatever I want.
All right. Well, it was wonderful talking to you, and if you ever want to come back on for anything, I'd be glad to have you. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem.